today, and we're going to be talking about social media.
So, good morning, everyone. Today we are going to introduce the internet and social media to you. Well, my name is Yang Ruiyuan, and she is my partner, Wu Hanshi. Well, before I start to introduce, I will show you a video, and maybe we can know something from what is internet from this video. Oh, sorry. Can it be played? Sorry.
Is it going to start or not in here? Okay, well, I have to pause that there.
Shall we start now?
Yeah.
So after watching this video, maybe we all know what is the internet. We will get to know something about the internet. And now I'll introduce the evolution of internet. The evolution of internet to you, and we may find out what is internet really is. First is the timeline. Well, from this line we can see the internet. The progress of its evolution was divided into different parts, and it was divided, I think, is by technology. The new technology come out, it's the new time for the internet evolution. So, well, in my idea, that is the technology is a driving force for internet evolution, and the next is the beginning. In earlier 1980s, the Randy Corporation developed a technology packet switch. It allows users to send voice message just like you call somebody, but it's totally different. So when you call somebody, and this is called hub-to-talk model, between you and the receiver, there is a central hub. So if the hub was destroyed, then the communication is over. But in this new system, well, it allows the voice message to be sent through an entire network. So a web, it doesn't need the traveling to through a central hub. So it allows many different possible paths to the destruction. And in 1983, the U.S. Defense Advanced Research Project Agency began research on protocols to allow computers to communicate with a distributed network. The distributed network is different from the old model. We will talk about this in the next PowerPoint. And by the way, there was another important invention about this kind of new communication, is that we call it in Chinese, it was 二进制. All the information should be written in ones and zeros. You just write 1 0 1 0, then the computers will get to know what you want to express. And the DAPRA uses new packet switching technology to send the voice message, and the message would be an onboard stream of granular data. So we can see from this picture, well, all the points in the picture are the same, but the way is different. We can see there was a central hub. When it was destroyed, then all the communication was over. But when you do this, just like shown in the video, but in this distributed model, well, the communication can't continue if one point was destroyed, because there are so many ways to get to there. And this new technology has ensured that the computers can receive your messages. So this is the new technology that makes computer-to-computer transmission possible. Next is the host and IP and TCP. It's just the host, in Chinese is 主机. Well, it was a physical node that directly noted to the computer to the internet. And it was computer. And IP is the internet product. Each illegal IP address refers to a single location on global internet. TCP means Transmission Control Protocol. It's just like the post office, which directs information to the correct location. Nowadays, every computer needs to accept the TCP and IP protocol so that it can go to access to the internet. And the worldwide maybe is these two protocols makes every computer in the world can access to the internet. But in the earlier internet, there was only 4 hosts. Well, there was UCLA, Stanford, and because the internet, for the first time, the internet is only for the military use and only some universities in America can get to use it. So at the beginning of the internet, there was only 4 hosts, but with its development, well, it's called then the email come out. Actually, at the beginning, the email already exists in your computer. It's just like your folder. If you have a folder, then you have some documents. Then sending an email just like you send your documents to others' computer, just like leaving a note on others' computer. But with more and more people began to use the internet, and someone invented an important symbol which can use the naming system, which helps us to got to know who really you want to send. If you want to send to someone, then you just use this symbol and write the email address so that it could email address. So it is an important part in the evolution of internet. Because of email, the sending message just like you call someone. If you try to call someone in the other side of the world, it was expensive and it was inconvenient. But when you send an email, it was really convenient and inexpensive. So it makes the email really, really more and more popular. With the internet development, the more and more websites began to provide a form of email service, and this is a video, but maybe we can't show you now. We don't need to show you now, so sorry. And next is hypertext, which we call 超文本. Well, we started this in the website design. Well, in my idea, I call this the language of computer. We use
In this mode, you can show your videos without a problem. In this, because it's that projection mode that got us confused. You may have to go to YouTube, but
yes.
But you can do it without as many hassles if you want to show it. So you can go to YouTube and show it, and then come right back to here, and it should keep going okay.
All right.
let's go ahead and just turn off the recording.
So thank you, and so we'll restart now. And as shown in the video, the email also has an evolution, and no matter what happens, but the most important for this is the symbol, is the naming system. You can use. So next is hypertext. I think this is just the language of computer. You can use this language. By using this language, everyone could build and create and design a website. But it also requires a new protocol. So people invented the HTTP. And it is a HTTP. And at the same time, the World Wide Web was invented. For this part, it means that the internet has really goes globally again. The 5 points is for sale. In the 1980s is a fast-growing time for internet. During that time, it seems that everyone could build a website and sell it for millions of dollars. Let's watch a video about it and just as shown in the video that at the beginning there was too many companies, but after that it was just like it goes to the highest point and it falls down, and only some lucky ones survive. One of the company is eBay today, and the invitation of new technology can bring the new briefs to the old business, but many companies didn't concern about the non-growth, so they just do only a few things with internet. But when it was so many companies on the internet, it just like only someone who is the most special one, the most considerable one can survive. And the next is the early days of social media. In my opinion, that when people goes to online to make friends, to communicate with the friends, it's the beginning of social media. But at the first, there wasn't smartphone. So people just use the social networking, just like the QQ don't have the application at first, but when the smartphone was invented, there are some of the smart networkings also invented their application. And the internet changed 3 important aspects of communication: the speed of information, the value of information, and the ability to everyone could publish their idea online. And one of the social networking is also one of the internet's largest and most revolution changes. It comes out that people can communicate, and people can communicate with anyone she or he likes just online. So that really is the beginning of internet's.
Maybe taping over ourselves.
The social media at first is just social networking. But I'll talk about it later and more about it later. And the next is in late 1980s and earlier 1980s, the Usenet. So anyone knows anything about Usenet? It's just the system that allows you to send message to in a specific group. Just you connect your computer with your partners, and she connects her computer with others, so that you are all in a group. It allows you to send message and receive messages it allows you to, and then is the first packet switching company. When anything comes to set up a company or other things, it means that it really becomes popular and major. And 2 years later, the inventions of dial-up model make it possible for everyone in the world to access with the internet, just like we call it in Chinese as 拨号。当你想要联网的时候，你原来是要拨一个号，然后连上去的，就是这样。然后，对。The Usenet spread so fast, and the ideas of Usenet is really inspired. Other things come out from this Usenet, just like this one. The GeoCities. The GeoCity is a important website just in that time. It allows everyone to create a web on any topic you want, and it's free it is free, the most important, but it has a advertising banner at the top of each page. This idea of communicating on a specific topics comes from Usenet, but the GeoCity is really an important part of the internet in American history, maybe, but not in other words. It just means, but there are maybe similar things in other words. Anyone could register it and build your website, your communicating, and so many people add to this. They communicate with each other, and there was also advertising. So it seems that it's already a major model for even today. But so before this. And it is almost the earlier time evolution of internet. And the next is social media and web 2.0. First is social networking. Well, before the smartphone was invented, the social media was almost social networking, I think. There are almost 3 types of social networking. The first one is just like Facebook, Twitter, and MySpace, which provide a limited but public platform for the users to create your own space. I prefer it to like your own space. You can put your photo, you can write your words, you can just do anything on this, and your friends can see it. Just like your daily life should, I think. And another type of social media is just like Google's, just began to online public versions on a general short of web Google's. Those personal sites is different from the Facebook because it prefers to give personal ideas about, or they write about what they want. Some people use this to create their works, just like to write something on this. And because it can write really, really long, really many words, so and some people to add picture in this, just like doing documents. And the third types of social media was I think it's the sharing medium. YouTube, you can share the video with your friends, and you can Wiki, you can share your resource with others, and you can share your photo, you can share your content, you can share everything on this video. You just put this on the site, and people can watch it from all over the world. They can watch it, they can share it. So it is the social networking means social sharing. So the next is going viral. Well, in my idea, this means when you are going viral, then you maybe or the video is going to be really hot online, really famous, and so many people are watching it. And we should watch a video about it so you can maybe know more about what is the really going wrong. Just like shown in the video that in online life, your privacy depends on others. If they see your picture, well, what will they do? And if you see their picture and their contents, then what will you do? Some people just taking it and share it with other persons. So it is really important to protect your privacy, and maybe I think is no privacy online because anyone could see it. And we'll talk about the privacy setting on Facebook. Actually, I really don't want to, and I really don't like to use Facebook. I think the privacy setting on Facebook is really complicated and inconvenient, but it has already simplified. I don't know what it was earlier time, but it was maybe. There are many users at first is really angry for the Facebook setting because they found they have tells other person there made so much privacy information, but they don't know about it because just of the privacy setting of Facebook. And in May 2010, there was 3 changes on Facebook. First, the privacy control are simple, but I think it was still complete. And second, Facebook made less information public available, but I think it's not enough. When you see famous Facebook, people can see your photo, people can see your school address, where you live, where you work, and your favorite thing. They can see this all, but maybe I don't want people to see this, but if you don't, I only want my friends to see it, but people can see it. And if you don't put anything on there, then it was best. Not finally, and it was easier to block an application. And a third-party website from accessing user information. So just like people today, when you go to a website, it used to open you can use your Facebook to log in the other websites now because the information is shared, I think. For those websites, the information is already shared and you just need to say yes and the information just goes around. So now we'll talk about social media effects on environments. Well, just like the beginning of part of we talk about this at the beginning of social media goes popular. Internet goes popular, and there was so many online companies, and not only some lucky ones survived until now, and now today is social media company. I think just like what we call an example is just like WeChat. So many people in China, because China don't have Facebook and Twitter, so the WeChat is really popular, and today is so many people to use WeChat to do their business. They just send a message to their friends, just say, do you want this, and give them the lower price than the real lower price than others. But it was another big problem in there is that the quality of the selling things, and another problem is that the target advertising. People today maybe today people have the experience that when you search something online, the next people you search the strawberry online, but the next when you go into the Facebook, I don't have the experience, but when I go use the WeChat, well, there is some information about strawberry come out, some advertising just like, well, the nearest strawberry garden from my home, how fast, and how good the strawberry is. Because when you search something online, the social media will remember it and to use it to put target advertising on you, because they know what you want and they give you information maybe you need, maybe you want, and they will maybe give the information according to what you typed on the social media, your age, your prefers, and what you like, your location, just like this. And these developments is really different from the traditional marketing, but it's a new kind of marketing, but it's maybe more personal, and the older today many companies use this way to do advertisement, and it's just like Google has almost a really large part of advertisement, because people today really spend so much time online on social media. So maybe I put my advertisements on a newspaper, just after people watching this newspaper, then they just throw this newspaper away, they no more watch it. But when I put my advertisement online on a social media, and I can spend maybe less money, and it was sent to the people who really need it, maybe really need it, and it's more effective and it's spend more time. When people using phone so long today, and the longer they use it, the more advertising they watch it. So the last one is social media as a tool for social change. Well, I give an example, just like you can watch it. On January 14, 2011, people in Egypt need a revolution because of the social media, I think. Because there was something bad for the government. Maybe there is not something bad for the government, but people just write it. For example, when you are hungry and you don't get the money from the government, then you are really angry. You write something online and you just post it online, and people read about it. People who have the same experience really read it, and they become more angry, and more people more angry, more people more anger. And finally, it may lead to a revolution or may lead to some violent attacks. So the government can't control the social media, but the government today in China, well, the government really control the social media, but in other sides of the world, but they don't control, they can't do this because of the setting of social media. And I have experience when I use QQ, I type something which is about historical things in China, but I can't post it out because the contents has some sensitive words, so I can't put it out. But when I do this with Facebook, with Twitter, it was okay. It was totally no problem. So the differences makes differences, I think. The people use social media more, people read news more, and social media changes social, or social controls social media. The government, maybe today, other parts in the world, the government can't control the social media. But I think the key point of is that the resolve of people to bring about changes is most important. Well, when you read about this news, you need to consider yourself. Is it true or Is it really good you need to judge by yourself. But social media many people today in the world, maybe they are not good to judge. Someone spoke out what they really want to say. Well, the government is bad, then all people say the government is bad online. And the more people say the government is bad online, then maybe it turns to the real attacks in the real life. So today the social media is really a tool for social change, and I think the key point of the social change is the people, I think. Thank you. And next part I'll pass it to my partner and she will introduce. 你可以放视频，放不了的话就再往上走。把这个移一下。你想这样放吗？你不放视频吗？先看，先视频。
I will introduce you the effects of the internet and globalization on popular culture and interpersonal communication, and the issues and trends. First is the background. We are now living with World Wide Web, and the internet broke down the communication barriers, and there are various translation services available. Nearly all the countries are now able to cheaply export culture, no matter rich or poor, big or small. And the internet globalization, internet is the key factor of globalization. The internet could reduce the cost and increases the efficiencies. Let's watch a video. Does the internet affect interpersonal communication?
The rapid evolution of any technology naturally raises questions about both its potential benefits and possible negative consequences, says Bastini and Pizzaltarandi. So, does the internet affect interpersonal communication? The main method of communication for most internet users are social networks. A social network is defined as an online community of people with a common interest who use websites or other technologies to communicate with each other, share information, resources, among other things. Here are some well-known examples of social networks. Within social networks, there are many forms of communication: direct messaging, a private message that can be sent between users; posts, texts, images, etc. that are placed on a website; stories, which are similar to a post but only last 24 hours; videos, a short film made using digital technology and viewed on a computer, especially over the internet, and many more. These social networks have led to changes for interpersonal communication because they each have assumed social rules. For example, it is inappropriate to like your own posts on any platform. It would be received in a bad manner. Along with these social rules, a social hierarchy is formed, where the person with the most followers becomes more popular. People frequently compare themselves to others who may be more popular. This would not occur in face-to-face communication. While they can be damaging, social networks allow people to reach a much larger audience. This results in better local and global communications. In the end, there are good things and bad things about using the internet as communication. For example, people can meet new friends from across the globe. Yet, issues can arise with learning practical social skills. These are examples of some lost social skills: awkwardness, not being able to read body language, and not understanding social cues. Alternatively, the internet allows those with communication barriers to communicate more freely with others. The following are examples of social barriers: not being able to speak, having an accent, or social anxiety. I'll leave you with this question: how has the internet changed your communication?
Electronic media and the globalization of culture. The globalization is increasing, and the globalization is an economic force, and the economic interdependence is not its only byproduct. The core of globalization is the lowering of economic and cultural impediments to wide communication. And the process is from newspapers to satellite television. And the tool of it is the internet. The globalization is the two-way flow of information and culture across the globe, and nothing could stop it. China, globalization and the internet. The possible impediments to transmission of entertainment and cultures are the scarcity of artistic resources, the time lag of transmission to a foreign country, and the censorship by the host government. But China provides a valuable example of the ways the internet has helped to overcome or highlight all three of these hurdles. The first is China's considerable count, because China has big influence on the internet. And second is censorship extensive. China is ruled by a single political party that uses censorship extensively in an effort to maintain control. The third is large number of netizens, because China has large population. How the internet makes resistance to globalization increasingly difficult. China is a case study. In China, Google versus Baidu. Google decided it would stop censoring search results on Google.cn, its Chinese language search engine, as a result of a serious cyber attack on the company originating in China. Most of the search traffic went to the tightly controlled Chinese search engine Baidu. And China has more internet users than any other country. And this is Google Trends when you type Baidu. New media, internet convergence, and American society. So social media is to see the effect of media convergence through the internet. For traditional media outlets, social media allows users to collect information in an easy and fast way. For media conglomerates, social media is part of an overall integration of media outlets. And for users, I think we should focus responsibility and reliability, because the social media platform is there to support the news content, not to report the content itself. The internet-only sources. In 2008, in the United States, the internet takes place of print media and become the primary tool. But the leader for users to collect information is still television. And among younger demographics, they use internet to collect news. One of the most remarkable shifts is the establishment of online-only news sources. There is a conventional argument that the anonymity and the echo chamber of the Internet undermine worthwhile news reporting, especially for topics that are expensive to report on. And there are budget problems which make it hard to put reporters in the field. News media outlets publications existing entirely online has begun to appear. In 2008, there are 2 reporters left Washington Post and started a politically centered website called Politico. The medium has become a two-way street, more of a public forum than a straight news service. And this chart shows how many people use what tools to gain news source. Live from New York, and the Saturday Night Lives, SNL, and is an entire entertainment model around its broadcast time slot. Hulu call its product online premium video, primarily because of its desire to attract not the YouTube amateur, but rather a partnership of large media organizations. It builds business by offering a legal way to see all these shows on the same site. And according to this chart, Hulu is second, and the first is YouTube. Premium online video content. Hulu's success shows a high demand among Internet users, and Internet users want a wide variety of content, and they also need one easy-to-use inter-service. And the people often compare Hulu with Netflix. The role of the Internet in social alienations. There is a stigmatization that the Internet is a tool for introverts to avoid real social interactions. The Internet is the potentially great connecting force, and there is a counterintuitive idea that communication across the globe could breed social alienation. But today, teenagers spend much more time on the Internet than adults. It's because they have more increased free time and curiosity and familiarity with technology. Regarding kids these days, are antisocial, and the Internet could bring this depression and loneliness are all wrong. The Internet paradox and Facebooks. The Internet generation did not suffer from perpetual loneliness as a rule. Facebooks, younger people now use Facebook to connect with each other over the Internet. Facebook focus on social skills and it can be used on education. Facebook forms social bonds, and social networking tools not lead to more isolation. In fact, it's integral to some types of networking. but people may worry about its privacy and safety. Meetup.com. The Internet is a hub. In 2002, Meetup.com using the Internet to get people off the Internet. The entire purpose of it is to allow people to organize locally. Its features is encouraging real-life interaction. World of Warcraft, social interactions through avatars. WoW is 魔兽世界. It shows inherently social, and the highly developed social networking feature is guild, 公会, which is a group. The players get together and play games and to beat monsters. It's a new way of online interaction. Social interaction on the Internet among low-income groups, and they prefer face-to-face contact. Social interaction on the Internet can only happen if your friends are also on the Internet. The example is the poor children who also have their friends without the Internet, so they prefer to face-to-face contact. The way forward: communication, convergence, and cooperations. Internet is to sift through the ever-increasing amount of information on the Internet. The Facebook marketing risks. Many companies now use the Internet to leverage word-of-mouth social networking. Good or bad, communicating with cooperation is now a two-way street. Here are some concepts. First is the effect of globalization on culture. The Internet has made pop culture transmission a two-way street. The power to influence popular culture no longer lies with the relative few with control over traditional forms of mass media. It is now available to the great mass of people with access to the Internet. As a result, the cross-fertilization of pop culture from around the world has become a commonplace occurrence. Next is the possible effects of news migrating to the Internet. The Internet's key difference from traditional media is that it does not operate on a set intervallic time schedule. It is not periodical in the sense that it comes out in daily or weekly editions. It is always updated. As a result, many journalists fire both regular news stories and blog posts that can come at varied intervals as necessary. This allows them to stay up to date with breaking news without necessarily sacrificing the next day's more in-depth stories. The Internet paradox. The hypothesis that although the Internet is a tool for communication, many teenagers who use the Internet lack social interactions and become antisocial and depressed. It has been largely disproved, especially since the Internet has grown so drastically. Many sites, such as Meetup.com or even Facebook, work to allow users to organize for offline events. Other servers, like the video game World of Warcraft, serve as an alternate social work. So it is wrong. Now we come to issues and trends. First is the background. By 1994, the promise of the information superhighway had become so potent. America was quickly realizing that the spread of the web could be harnessed for educational purposes more than just the diversions of computer hobbyists. This new vision of the web would be a constant learning resource that anyone could use. And the government plays an essential role. A necessary neutral purpose is allowing business interests to get involved would compromise the digital divide. Despite the affordability of AOL and the services that succeed it, certain demographics continue to go without access to the internet. And the process is from the speed of transportations to credibility of information, to security of information, to net neutrality, and to the possibility of privacy. So the metaphor of the information superhighways has proved to be remarkably apt. Information access like never before. The internet means an effective source of information. The internet in education means a new future for all students. An explosive growth in sectors allowed individual online instructions. The internet provides virtually unlimited access to more educational opportunities. Rural areas and access to information. One of the major roadblocks of transmission is locations, and the internet brings the hope of a global library, and it's an essential prospect for rural areas. The internet has brought rural areas even further into the global world. The cloud instant updates, instant access. It's online. As technology has improved, it has become possible to provide software to users as a service that resides entirely online, rather than on a person's personal computer. Since people can now be connected to the internet constantly, they can use online programs to do all of their computing. Cloud computing is the process of outsourcing common computing tasks to a remote server. The actual work is not done by a computer attached to the user's monitor, but by other computers in the cloud. As a result, the computer itself does not actually need that much processing power. And an additional advantage, data can be stored in the cloud and retrieved from any computer, which means more conveniently portable and less vulnerable to hardware failures. As cellular transmission technology continues to improve with the rollout of next-generation 4G networks, connectivity speeds will further increase and allow for a focus on ever more comprehensive provisions for multimedia. Credibility issues, information superhighways. The internet is a boon for researchers and writers everywhere. It ranged from up-to-date news and media to vast archives of past writing and scholarships. Open to any users also means anyone can edit. A traditional media can knowingly or unknowingly publish unreliable or outright false information, but the exposure of available sources on the internet can cause a bit of a dilemma for information seekers, amateurs who have questionable expertise. If an author who is recognized from elsewhere writes something online, it may point to more reliable information. In addition, looking for a trusted name on the website could lead to more assurance of reliability. Bias on the web. Mainstream journalistic sources usually attempt to achieve some sort of balance in the reporting. Given reasonable access, they will interview opposing viewpoints and reserve judgment for the editorial page. Sites that rely on advertising may choose to publish something more inflammatory that will be linked to any forward more for its entertainment value than for its informational qualities. A website may attempt to present itself as a credible source of information about a particular product or topic with the end goal of selling something. Occasionally, corporation may set up credible fronts to disseminate information. This shows the difficulty of finding credible information online. And the false information more widely available means checking that information credibility is easy. Wikipedia, the Internet's precautions problem child. Wikipedia force the verifiabilities. There is a positive, also a negative side. Anyone can vandalize the site. Anyone can also fix it. There is a neutrality policies to immigrate the extreme views that may be posted on the page with open access, allowing the community to decide what constitutes a significant view that should be represented. If users do not take the facts on Wikipedia and at face value and make sure to follow up on the relevant sources, Wikipedia is an extremely useful reference tool, and the precautions should be taken to check the advantages of Wikipedia are openness and freedoms. There is a shift from valuing a few reliable sources to valuing a multiplices of competing sources. Weighing these sources against one another has become easier than ever before. Security of information on the Internet. Securing this information has become a major issue. Even though security is constantly improving, the information is not invulnerable. The Climategate scandal in late 2009 shows how easy it can be to lose control of private information on the Internet. The Internet is impartial to its users, allowing for open access and communication also means allowing for possible exploitations. Hacking email, from love letter for you to Google in China. Google's Gmail service has hacked by IP addresses originating in China in late 2009. In 2000, a computer virus was unleashed by a student in the Philippines that simply sent a message with a subject line, "I love you," and the service providers has become more vigilant. The increased reliance on email for daily communications cause us to become an attractive target for hackers. And the development of cloud computing brings new problems. Can we deny of service? Reliance has come with hefty price. A simple explosion may cause mass rollbacks to internet traffic. Although many people increasingly rely on the internet for communication and access to information, this reliance has come with a hefty price. Most critically, a simple exploit can cause massive roadblocks to internet traffic, leading to disruption in commerce, communication, and as the military continues to rely on the internet, national security. Net neutrality. Most internet users in the United States connect through a commercial internet service providers. Ideally, ISPs treat all content impartially, but ISPs allowed corporations to pay for a higher tier service. Such a service would hamper the ability of an internet startup. The defenders of net neutrality think it will decrease inventiveness and competitions. Net neutrality legislations. One of the key roadblocks, the difficulty to describing the Internet and the Internet's place among communication bills of the past. Legislation related to impartiality of service provider is not unheard of. Before the 1960s, AT&T was allowed to restrict for its customers to using only its own telephones on its networks. In the 1960s, the FCC launched a series of computer inquiries stating, in effect, that any customers could use any device on the Internet as long as it did not actually harm the network. This led to inventions such as the fax machine, which would not have been possible under AT&T's previous agreement. Misleading metaphors is not a big trump. Senator Ted Stevens, the former head of the committee in charge of regulating the Internet, said on the floor of the Senate that the Internet is not a big trunk. It's a series of tubes. Net neutrality is difficult to legislate in part because it can be confusing. It relies on understanding how the Internet works and how communications are regulated. Stevens' metaphor is misleading because it assumes that Internet's capacity is not already regulated in some neutral ways. Digital technology and electronic media. The content on the Internet versus content from other media outlets. Media companies have been forced to reinvent themselves. Traditional media companies have had to evolve, but they are far from absolute in an online world. Also some concepts. First is information superhighway as it relates to the internet. On one hand, the information superhighway has opened up rural areas to global connections and made communication and trade much easier. One downside, however, is that illicit and unwanted information can move just as quickly as positive information. It's up to the recipient to decide. Ways to identify credible source online. The lack of authorial attribution on many online forums can make it difficult to find credible information. However, Wikipedia's concept of verifiability or citing verified sources have provides good check to what can become a matter of mere my word against yours. It's important to gauge possible bias in a source and to judge whether the author has an economic interest in the information. The last is net neutrality. Net neutrality is a general category of laws that seek to make it illegal for service providers to discriminate among types of internet content. One downside of content discrimination is that a service provider could potentially make competitors' sites load much more slowly than their own. Now we move to questions. First, the internet paradox is proved to be right, especially since the internet has grown so dramatically. True or false? It's false, because it's wrong. Second is information superhighways brings pros and cons and recipients cannot decide it. True or false? It's false, because we can decide it. The last is net neutrality is a series of rules that can ban content discrimination. True or false? Still the false, because it's a series of laws.
So the next two questions is that going over is, and which makes the distributed networks possible. The answer is B, simply that something spreads online so fast like the viral, and the A, the packet switching technology. And this is our references, and thank you for this.
直接把这个不对，你应该考虑just
let me. Have you sent me a copy? If not, do it. Let's do a save that.
You say in the email and you
Okay, then you can pull it out. Okay, let's okay, we just have a few minutes left, actually. That was too long. That's part of your grade. You need to be able to exercise your judgment on what is most important. That's part of your grade, is to decide what to present and to present that well. We get back to one of the questions I had was, so what? Lowell is better at getting into the so what than is Poe. But if you try to stuff too much into your presentation, then you don't get to, even if you're using Poe's book, you're not getting to enough of the so what issues. You're just covering a whole bunch of stuff because there's so much there. Don't try to cover so much stuff. Use your own editorial judgment, so to speak, and pare it down as to what's important. consequently, I'll just make a few comments on the content. There was a lot to cover there. They did cover a lot of subjects, and again, in some cases, I don't think deep enough because there was just so much trying to cover too much. But let me talk about a few things. First off, apparently the data in Lowell's book is somewhat dated, which is a problem with any textbook. His textbooks get outdated very quickly. But in this day and age, and when you're talking about the internet, even much, much, much more so. For example, it was talking about Hulu being the main challenger to YouTube. Well, that's not true anymore. Hulu is number 3 among the video streaming companies. It's way below Netflix now. And now Amazon has climbed ahead of Hulu. So Hulu is not only not number 2 to YouTube as a video provider, is number 4 at least, maybe below that if you're going to count the freebies like YouTube. Some of the other data, it mentioned that people still depend on TV for their news. Outdated. As of there was a survey done after during the 2012 election. This data was like 2008. Things are changing so quickly on the internet that's, like I say, 4 years you're outdated. So in 2012, the question was asked, where do you get most of your information about the American campaign for president? It was now the internet. So it had gone in those 4 years from 2008, when they were still dependent on the mainstream media, the newspapers and TV, had flipped. In 2012, it had become the internet. 2016, even more so, and we've talked about it a little bit already, but 2016 was kind of the social media presidency with Donald Trump. It was, and there's all sorts of issues that have been raised and are currently being debated about what has happened on the internet that helped influence the U.S. presidential election. Obviously, when you're dealing with a very open society like in America's, you're much more prone to have those problems. If you're in China, you don't have, you may have censorship, but you don't have all the conflicting information, and it's different. So it's a different problem. It was a social media campaign, and there was a lot of fake news, but it's not as high as you have to become a very critical thinker when you're on the internet right now, and you have to expose yourself to more than one source. That's what part of the problem. Even back in 2012, Barack Obama may not have been reelected, except they were lying about Benghazi, and the mainstream media allowed them to lie about Benghazi. The mainstream media did not challenge them on the Benghazi issue when the ambassador and so forth were killed. Why didn't they have more protection? What was he doing there? The whole issue of Libya. Why did America even get involved with Libya? Was a major question in America. But it's now been very well documented that Hillary Clinton and President Obama and their associates openly lied throughout the end of the 2012 campaign to protect the president from any fallout about Benghazi. That it was not an issue of some stupid anti-Muslim video that had nothing to do with it. It was a planned attack that they knew, and now with the emails that have been uncovered and so forth, it was clear that they knew that it was a planned attack, but they were lying and trying to blame it on the video this whole time. Even when Hillary, for example, wrote her daughter and told her daughter the truth, and then she turned around and went on TV and lied. There's no consequence for that. President Obama still became president despite the whole administration lying all over the place about very important issues. And the mainstream media did not challenge them on it. So the mainstream media currently is yelling fake news against some of the conservative sites. And there's a lot of bad reporting on some of these sites. But it's almost kind of like they are trying to balance bad reporting on the part of the mainstream media, biased bad reporting. So the mainstream media is more professional, but has now become extremely biased in America, extremely biased. And that's been shown scientifically. Again, we've talked about some of it before. There was a UCLA study that showed that 18 of the 20 main news sources in America use more liberal sources than conservative sources. Another study from George Mason University that suddenly, under Obama, suddenly disappeared. So I think there was pressure in their university. But before that, what it showed was that in an analysis, again, they did it scientifically. In fact, George Mason's not a conservative organization, but they were able to show that the Republicans were getting twice as much bad press as the Democrats, and the Democrats were getting twice as much good press than the Republicans in the presidential elections. There's many different studies that show the extreme bias. Right now, what is going on is the mainstream media, I think, is actually desperate to protect its legitimacy, very desperate. And so they've actually gone worse. They've actually become more biased because they want to destroy any evidences that they were not biased, that they were biased before, or that they somehow lost their legitimacy. And so one thing they want to blame all the negative stuff on Russia, for example. They want to say that WikiLeaks got all their stuff from Russia, therefore it's not valid. Except the problem is that WikiLeaks distributed, and this is a whole new phenomenon. WikiLeaks is illegal. They would arrest and imprison the founder and operator of WikiLeaks if they could catch him. Except he's holed up in a embassy in the UK, being protected by diplomatic immunity, or not. He didn't have immunity, but he's being protected within an embassy. Is considered the property or part of the nation of the host country, and anyway, so the host country is protecting him. Otherwise, he would be arrested. So they want to disparage WikiLeaks, but the problem is not one thing that I know of that WikiLeaks reported during the campaign was ever shown to be wrong. And so they're attacking it as being that the information coming from Russia, which WikiLeaks is saying is not true. I don't know how much came from Russia, how much didn't. But even if it did come from Russia, it was never countered. They had got all this stuff about the Democrats, for example, trying to cause physical conflicts at Trump rallies. They had all this information about how they destroyed, that Hillary gained control over the party to the point that her opponent couldn't compete with her legitimately. That they were biasing the whole primary election process. They had all sorts of stuff. They had all this Benghazi stuff. None of it was ever refuted. And so as much as they want to say, Russia, 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 they've never shown that any of it was wrong. And so but they're trying to destroy it because it would destroy, if they don't destroy the smaller, less professional organizations, and they don't destroy WikiLeaks, basically they are being shown to be illegitimate, which basically they have shown them. In my perspective, they have accomplished that on their own. During the Benghazi thing, for example, and that still goes back all the way back to 2012. I try to read both the conservative sources and the liberal ones, and I'm very skeptical about the conservative ones. I am conservative, but the conservative news sites or opinion sites are not very professional. And so I'm skeptical because I don't think they have enough reporters. They can't check their information. They can't check their sources very well. Nonetheless, just as a case example, Benghazi, the conservative sites were telling the truth within 1 month of when it happened, whereas the mainstream media never reported the truth for 9 months. And when one reporter tried to tell the truth about Benghazi, she was attacked by the other media. And she finally just quit her job with CBS TV. And so it was really they were pretty much denying the truth about Benghazi through this last election. For 4 years, they were basically protecting the Democrats from their lies about Benghazi. It's just one example, but there's lots of other examples too. The IRS scandal. The IRS scandal, there still is on the news today again, was that under Obama, the taxing service had become politicized and had become anti-conservative. And they were doing things to hurt the conservatives through taxes. And that's, like I say, they're still arguing that case right now, but the government has basically paid the conservative groups tens of millions of dollars in reparation fees for what the IRS did to them. So the government itself has become politicized. We have in America what's called a Civil Service Act that's supposed to protect the jobs of people who work for the government, but it's also the design was to make it apolitical. And therefore in the old days before civil service, if a Republican, whatever party, they had parties with different names in those days even, whatever party gained control could fire everybody in the entire government. So they'd have to hire all new people, which now would be millions of people, if they didn't have civil service. So civil service was to protect, first off, the government in a sense from going through this radical change every 4 years or whatever because somebody else gained control. But right now it's become politicized. And so this IRS scandal is a very big deal. There appears to be an FBI scandal, which should be the most trusted organization in the world, and yet there's evidence that it's become politicized. And so this has become a big issue. But in order to protect liberalism, in a sense, the mainstream media is basically looking the other way at all of these issues. They're ignoring the Benghazi lies. They're ignoring the IRS issues. They're ignoring all sorts of issues that would hurt their cause, which is hurting their cause. It's hurting their legitimacy. And so a good share of America do not trust the mainstream media anymore. And they actually do trust. I believe absolutely that by the end of the election last year, WikiLeaks had become the most trusted news source in the world. Which, being illegal, raises all sorts of questions. Since what they're doing, they're hacking or whatever they're doing to get the information, some of it anyway was illegal hacking. And did they get some from Russia? All sorts of questions about it. And yet, as I said, nothing they revealed was ever refuted. Whereas the stuff that the mainstream media reveals every day is always refuted and can be shown to be extremely biased. So it's an extremely complicated time that I, as a professional, have to read both sides and have to read all sorts of strange sites, including sites that I may agree with philosophically, but I know they don't have the professionalism to double check all their information. And so I can't trust the conservative sites, even though I'm conservative, but I know I can't trust the liberal sites because I know they're biased. And so it puts me as a professional in a position where it's a big challenge to know what's true because of these problems. So there's all sorts of problems going on. Things, like I said, have changed very rapidly. People are not as dependent on the mainstream media anymore. A lot of the young people especially say they get their news from the social media. And clearly a lot of it did happen during this last campaign, which is, like I said, where suddenly the mainstream media is yelling, fake news, and President Trump is yelling back at them, "You're fake news." So, "No, you're fake news. No, you're fake news," which is kind of almost childish in the way it's happening right now, yelling at each other about who's fake news. And there are problems on both sides, frankly. Like I say, the liberal bias of the mainstream media, the unprofessionalism of the right-stream media, if you would, makes them both susceptible to challenge and criticism, which leaves a person in the middle trying to come with the truth, unsure about anything. at this point in America anyway. So it's a there are lots of issues going on, and Lowell's book, as I said, is already outdated. I'm actually, I mentioned I just got done with a couple of chapters of a new book, and that's one of the things I talk about in that, is that everything is getting outdated so quickly, including like how to do marketing, how to do online marketing is changing every day, practically. I showed, I think I maybe had to cut it out, but I made a list of the things that had changed in mainstream in the social media just in the last couple of months that were reported on a social media, what's called Social Media Examiner. And there were like 24 things, dramatic things that had just changed in the last month or so on social media that would totally change marketing, and other related things. Twitter has doubled its character space, so now it's not, what the video said, no more. It's now double that. There's lots of ways to get around it with links and so forth. So Twitter is becoming a different animal. Facebook is becoming very different. A lot more live. A lot of people are going to live video now. So it's not just upload a video, but one of the most popular conservative, for example, is now doing live video every day with commentary on the events and trying to clarify what stuff that I was talking about. He's trying to become a legitimate conservative voice to try to clarify the issues going on in the news, and that's all going live now. Of course, it's recorded also, but you go live. You can watch it live, or it stays on recorded. So the live streaming media on Facebook is becoming extremely important. It's also important in advertising and marketing. A lot of marketers are using live streaming now. So we're going to see that surging in the next year or so, becoming a major thing. We have, talking about questions of legitimacy, we have, I think I've told you about the idea of native advertising. The definition of native advertising is paid advertising that tries to look like it's organic. And it's actually something, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but people have to be aware of what it is and what's going on. For example, I know we're out of time. I'll maybe show it to you another day. I did some of the first and extremely effective native advertising, over 30 years ago. So native advertising is not exclusively online advertising, but it is. They expect it to become like 80% of all advertising, or 85% of all advertising on the internet by 2021 is expected to be native advertising. And so all of it is going to be disguised like it's not advertising, but it will be advertising. So in Facebook, it's the sponsored things in your timeline. That when it says sponsored, that means somebody's paying for it. And they're getting it out they're spreading it beyond their friends and fans to other people because they're paying for that. That's native advertising, and that's spreading across some of the social media. Already have 90% of their advertising is already native advertising, and other media are going that way very, very quickly. And I think I already mentioned that even the Google search is becoming, in essence, native, in that it's done away with the ads over on one side that you would see when you did a search, and now all their advertising is going within their search listing, but the top 3 are paid and the bottom 3 are paid, and everything else is organic. And so they're trying to make those ones that are paid less obviously paid. And so that people will look at them, because that's the whole point, is that you want people to look at your advertising so it's worth more money. And so everything's going native, which is a huge trend online. But also, by the very nature of it, you are to some degree trying to deceive people and make them think this is not paid, that this is legitimate, this is organic, and yet at the same time you're really trying to fool them. So you're trying to fool them a little bit. So that also leads to some disbelief or some questions about the legitimacy of those media that are purposely trying to fool you with their advertising. And that's the whole nature. That's the whole reason why they have native advertising, to try to fool you. And so, otherwise, what's the point of it? So anyway, it's a very confusing time, and you have to become very critical thinkers to understand what to trust on the internet, because there's a lot of stuff not to trust, and yet a lot of wonderful things. So be skeptical. Okay, well, we're way past time. So thank you, and we'll see you next week.